This is the Literary License Podcast, classic novel episode, dealing with classics you must read before you die, and finding new life in between the dusty covers, exploring page to screen and everything in between with your co-hosts, Jesse Coates, Vicky Ray, Leandro Getzi, and Keith Chowgo, who ensure to bring the fun to an old standard.
Hello, welcome to Literary License Podcast, and it's our end of our classic novel season, and we are covering Moby Dick by Herman Melville, and of course the film from 1956, I believe.
56, yeah.
And so before we go any further, let's find out who's with us. We got Vicky Ray. Hello, Vicky.
Hey, everybody.
And Leandro Ghazi. Hello, Leandro.
Hello, everybody.
And myself, Keith Chowgo. And before we get started, let's find out what we've been up to. And starting out with you, Leandro, what have you been up to since last time we spoke to you?
Well, I don't know if I told you, but I have changed job. And I'm working as a site manager, slash caretaker in a school. But still working in the old job at sometimes. Basically that, and then harvesting potatoes from the allotment. And
neat.
Yeah, I've been eating mash. And yeah, just doing that.
Chips, boiled potatoes, baked potatoes.
Fried, yeah.
Fried potatoes.
I didn't get a lot, but for the first time ever, it's like, I'm proud.
Twice baked potatoes.
They're called Foremost. I think they're not really, really big. They're more like round.
They're the little red ones.
Normal potatoes, but the thing is, I think I didn't plant it with a lot of space, so they grow a lot, but not as big as maybe as the whole potential. So I'm learning, so it's all right for the first time.
Well, like new potatoes. The size of new potatoes.
That's true.
Okay. So.
And there are more things on the go, but I have to wait.
Yeah, well, it won't be too much longer now. Before they'll all be done. September will be a busy time for you.
Yeah, I have a lot of things going on, like corn, and other things. It's a hard job. You have to be like keeping all the time, weeding all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that your garden?
The rain must be for it.
Is it your garden, Leandro, or is it?
Yeah, it's something like you pay for a year and you have a plot, and then you have to work it yourself.
That is so cool. I wish they had.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
That is really cool.
Mm-hmm. What about yourself, Vix? What are you been up to?
Well, I haven't been the green thumb in it like Leandro, but my tomatoes all turned out really good this year because I really was on those, but I've been fighting with people for giving them away because don't give my tomatoes away, just like those are mine. But not really. I haven't been doing anything that exciting. I've had like a really weird bitchy cold since I got back from New York. I brought home some kind of germ or something. But other than I've been watching, what did I call it? The Full Moon Productions on TV.
Full Moon Productions.
I've been watching a lot of that stuff because some of it's really old and it's just a lot of fun. But what did I watch? Oh, I watched this one called The Wave. It was a dubbed indie film from I believe Norway or the Netherlands, somewhere around there. It was about how, like they have people that actually watch for landslides in these communities. I didn't even realize that. You know how like when the landslides hit and they get like a 600-foot tsunami that can possibly happen at any given time, and where all these, not reservoirs, what do you call fjords, where all these fjords are. And it was just kind of, it wasn't a nice story. It didn't really actually happen, but it's what could possibly happen. But it was a pretty big wave those things make anyway. And Asher made me watch all of the Sharknadoes. I've watched all 5. I think that they're making a 6th one. I think that's why they're all coming back. But those are always good, clean fun. And I watched the new Suicide Squad on HBO Max yesterday. It was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun. I think, like Joe said, James Gunn was having a lot of fun with this one, and he did, because it was a lot of fun to watch. Mm-hmm. But other than that, we've just been kind of enjoying the dog days of summer here in Texas. It's really hot, and do what you can do. What about you, Keith?
I haven't been up to a lot, nothing but really work. I'm a bit behind in my editing because I got some interviews to put out. We do have an interview coming out this week for Ellen Foley because her new album's out, so we'll post that one out. But yeah, I like to sit there and say that I've been up to a lot of exciting things, but not really. I did watch The Swarm on Netflix, which is a French film about a bunch of locusts that come through and start killing everyone.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
It's okay. I mean, it's very artsy, but it has some good gore and blood to it. And to be honest, I kind of was dipping in and out of it when I was watching it, but I probably need to rewatch that. And then, the other stuff I've been watching is just like everyday kind of stuff, sort of thing. Nothing extraordinary.
Yeah, there's nothing other than Suicide Squad. Nothing really caught my eye.
Yeah, I'm at that point. Week. Well, I watched The Office from beginning to end, and then once that finished, I kind of was like kind of out of sorts because like now you're trying to look for the next best thing to fill that.
I know that suck. You finish something and then you just sort of like Ratchet or things you've been waiting for. What was that? Was not The Manifest, but you got me watching it about the aliens.
Oh, The Colony.
The Colony, yeah. See, 3 seasons and you were left hanging, and it just like I just refused to get into another series because Netflix is 3 or 4 seasons. I'm really, you can squeeze out of them. And it's like, please just finish that one and finish The Witcher, please, on Netflix. I would like one more season of The Witcher.
I think you're later this month.
Huh?
There is a Witcher program coming out later this month.
New episodes, I hope.
So
better than that.
But I think
nothing exciting.
Well, The Witcher, I mean, The Witcher's like Westworld, where it takes like a year and a half to 2 years to make it.
Really?
Yeah, it takes that long to make it. So.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of special effects and a lot of
post-production and filming all over.
Yeah, they are filming all over. The continuity's got to be a bitch.
I feel like Game of Thrones is like that as well because they have to film all over the place. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the first few seasons. I know a lot of other people.
Yeah, I like Witcher as well. Probably need to rewatch that as well.
He's kind of a weird hero, He's sexy, but he's not. He's just one of those weird. He's got some kind of weird charisma about him. I don't know. It's got to be the hair, maybe the muscles.
Well, see, I know The Witcher from the computer game series. That's how.
What?
I played the Witcher computer game, which was fantastic. I loved it. And then the series came out afterwards. But it's based on a bunch of books from Poland. It's
sort of like Mortal Kombat and stuff. They come out after the game. But I mean, the new Mortal Kombat was worth it. I liked it. But they set you up for the second one. So, there's a second one coming. Because everybody's a gamer in my family except me. I'm the only unnerded person.
Yeah. Oh, no, I guess another thing I've been doing is getting things ready for Back for Blood, where I'm actually...
Oh, yeah.
I'm doing a live streaming thing on YouTube next week. So
you're going to have to let me know when you're doing that because I'll tell Tyler, and Asher will just love to follow that.
Yeah. But at the moment, it's getting really good, word of mouth. It's sold over 1 million copies pre-sales at the moment. And it's...
Well, congratulations on that. That's exciting stuff. What do you mean you're not doing anything exciting? That's exciting.
Well, I mean, it's something I did 7 years ago, and now it's coming out now. So it's like,
but that's still exciting. It finally, fruition.
Going, huh?
Finally, redemption, fruition. It has come to out of its own. Those are good things.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good. There's a lot of YouTube reviewers that the game's been given to, so they can actually play through 8 levels of it.
Right.
And it's getting, the response is really good. So I guess that's something to be quite excited
I'll have to turn Tyler onto it. He'll just want to try to do it just to beat you out or something on him.
Well, Back for Blood basically is a team of 4 people online. They have to work together. If they don't work together, they will die, sort of thing. So it's
sort of like life.
It's a bit like life, sort of thing. It is a sequel to the Left 4 Dead series. I remember, Left 4 Dead was one of my favorite games on the Xbox, and that's got to be about 10, 15 years ago now.
Oh, God, easy.
And, I made a lot of my friends through that sort of thing. But I remember one time I was playing, and you can play with random people, and there's three girls who are really good friends with each other. And things I said before, you had to work together, so you're going from point A to point B, and if you don't stick together, then if you run off, then something's going to get you, and then you have to save that person. So I remember, let's call them Sharon and Mary. I know. So I'm hanging with Sharon and Mary, and then all of a sudden you see Mary's character run off in the distance.
Right.
And you hear Sharon go, "Yeah, that's right, Mary, go running off." Like every time you get a boyfriend, you just go running off, forget your friends, sort of thing. And then all of a sudden it's like this jumper jumps on their character, like, and you can see the shadow of it, and it's like tearing apart her character. And then you hear Sharon going, "Okay, Mary, I'll come and rescue you. Like every time your boyfriend dumps you, and I have to come and rescue you." But that's what's so good about these kind of games, and same thing will go to Back for Blood, is that you get people who end up playing together, but then the thing is like you're kind of playing and everyone's just talking and chatting and having a good time, sort of thing. And I said before, because you have to work together, you do get a different kind of dynamic, because you're not against each other. You have to work as a team. So, and my friends like Debs and and Garrett and all these Alex, friends that I've had for 15 years. I mean, some of the friends like Garrett and Alex, when I started playing with them, they were like 13 years old, and now they're graduated from college now.
Oh my God, isn't that wild?
So yeah,
Debs has grown up and all married.
Mm-hmm. One of our friends, she was like 17, 18 when we started playing Left 4 Dead back 15 years ago. She's had children, and she actually died last week. So it was like,
oh, I'm sorry. God.
Yeah, she had heart problems and stuff like that, and her heart gave out. So, she's left 3 young children and stuff like that. But, that's all, taken care of. But it's interesting. But you learn. I mean, we were like in each other's lives, like every single weekend we all get together and, strangers. And when I was going through my divorce, and I decided I was going to Florida to get away from the UK for, 3 weeks. Everyone that I played this game with, all 15 of us, all verged down to Florida. We all met each other, and it was quite nice. And we're all still friends today. So
that's great, though.
So I'm quite thankful for the Left 4 Dead series, and I'm hoping that Back 4 Blood will create new memories with new people. So who is that?
It will.
Well, that brings us to Moby Dick. Now, Moby Dick is a book that was written in 1981, and it was written by Herman Melville. The book is about a sailor Ismael's narrative of the obsessive quest of Ahab, a captain of the whaling ship, the Pequod, for revenge on Moby Dick, the giant white sperm whale that on the ship's previous voyage bit off Ahab's leg at the knee. A contribution to the literature of the American Renaissance, Moby Dick was published to mixed reviews, was a commercial failure, and was out of print at the time of the author's death in 1891. Its reputation as a great American novel was established only in the 20th century after the centennial of its author's birth. William Faulkner said he wished he had written the book himself, and D.H. Lawrence called it one of the strangest and most wonderful books in the world and the greatest book of the sea ever written. Its opening sentence, "Call me Ismael," is among the world's most famous literature opening lines. Well, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut to the synopsis, and we'll be back to talk about Moby Dick.
Moby Dick, the synopsis. Ismael, the narrator, announces his intent to ship aboard a whaling vessel. He has made several voyages as a sailor, but none as a whaler. He travels to New Bedford, Massachusetts, where he stays in a whaler's inn. Since the inn is rather full, he has to share a bed with a harpooner from the South Pacific named Queequeg. At first repulsed by Queequeg's strange habits and shocking appearance, Queequeg is covered with tattoos. Ismael eventually comes to appreciate the man's generosity and kind spirit, and the two decide to seek work on the whaling vessel together. They take a ferry to Nantucket, the traditional capital of the whaling industry. There they secure berths on the Pequod, a savage-looking ship adorned with the bones and teeth of sperm whales. Peleg and Bedad, the Pequod's Quaker owners, drive a hard bargain in terms of salary. They also mention the ship's mysterious captain, Ahab, who is still recovering from losing his leg in an encounter with a sperm whale on his last voyage. The Pequod leaves Nantucket on a cold Christmas day with a crew made up of men from many different countries and races. Soon the ship is in warmer waters, and Ahab makes his first appearance on deck, balancing gingerly on his false leg, which is made from a sperm whale's jaw. He announces his desire to pursue and kill Moby Dick, the legendary great white whale who took his leg, because he sees this whale as an embodiment of evil. Ahab nails a gold doubloon to the mast and declares that it will be the prize for the first man to sight the whale. As the Pequod sails towards the southern tip of Africa, whales are sighted and unsuccessfully hunted. During the hunt, a group of men, none of whom anyone on the ship's crew has seen before on the voyage, emerges from the hold. The men's leader is an exotic-looking man named Badala. These men constitute Ahab's private harpoon crew. Smuggled aboard in defiance of Badad and Peleg, Ahab hopes that their skills and Badala's prophetic abilities will help him in his hunt for Moby Dick. The Pequod rounds Africa and enters the Indian Ocean. A few whales are successfully caught and processed for their oil. From time to time, the ship encounters other whaling vessels. Ahab always confirms information about Moby Dick from their captains. One of the ships, the Jeroboam, carries Gabriel, a crazed prophet who predicts doom for anyone who threatens Moby Dick. His predictions seem to carry some weight, as those aboard his ship who have hunted the whale have met disaster. While trying to drain the oil from the head of a captured sperm whale, Tashtuka, one of Pequod's harpooners, falls into the whale's voluptuous head, which then rips free of the ship and begins to sink. Queequeg saves Tastingo by diving into the ocean and cutting into the slowly sinking head. During another whale hunt, Pip, Pequod's black cabin boy, jumps from a whale boat and is left behind in the middle of the ocean. He goes insane as a result of the experience and becomes a crazy but prophetic jester for the ship. Soon after, the Pequod meets the Samuel Enderby, a whaling ship whose skipper, Captain Boomer, has lost an arm in an encounter with Moby Dick. The two captains discuss the whale. Boomer, happily simply to have survived his encounter, cannot understand Ahab's lust for vengeance. Not long after, Queequeg falls ill and has the ship's carpenter make him a coffin in anticipation of his death. He recovers, however, and the coffin eventually becomes the Pequod's replacement lifebuoy. Ahab orders a harpoon forged in the expectation that he will soon encounter Moby Dick. He baptizes the harpoon with the blood of Pequod's 3 harpooners. The Pequod kills several more whales, ensuing a prophecy about Ahab's death. Vandella declared that Ahab will fish his first see 2 hearses, the second which will be made only from American wood, and that he will be killed by a hemp rope. Ahab interprets these words to mean that he will not die at sea, where there are no hearses and no hangings. A typhoon hits the Pequod, illuminating it with the electrical fire. Ahab takes this occurrence as a sign of imminent confrontation and success, but Starbuck, the ship's first mate, takes it as a bad omen and considers killing Ahab to end the mad quest. After the storm ends, one of the sailors falls from the ship's masthead and drowns, a grim foreshadowing of what lies ahead. Ahab's prevalent desire to find and destroy Moby Dick continues to intensify, and the Mad Pip is now his constant companion. The Pequod approaches the equator, where Ahab expects to find the great whale. The ship encounters 2 more whaling ships, the Rachel and the Delight, both of which have recently had fatal encounters with the whale. Ahab finally sights Moby Dick, the harpoon boats are launched, and Moby Dick attacks Ahab's harpoon boat, destroying it. The next day Moby Dick is sighted again, and the boats are lowered once more. The whale was harpooned, but Moby Dick again attacks Ahab's boat. Vandella, trapped in the harpoon line, is dragged overboard to his death. Starbuck must maneuver the Pequod between Ahab and the angry whale. On the 3rd day, the boats are once again sent after Moby Dick, who once again attacks them. The men can see Vandella's corpse lashed to the whale by the harpoon line. Moby Dick rams the Pequod and sinks it. Ahab is then caught in a harpoon line and hurled out of the harpoon boat to his death. All the remaining whale boats and men are caught in the vortex created by the sinking Pequod and pulled under to their deaths. Ismael, who was thrown from the boat at the beginning of the chase, was far enough away to escape the whirlpool, and he alone survives. He floats atop Queequeg's coffin, which popped back up from the wreck, until he's picked up by the Rachel, which is still searching for the crewmen lost in her earlier encounter with Moby Dick. And that's the synopsis of Moby Dick.
Hello, welcome back to the Literary License Podcast, our final episode of Classic Novels in Season 4. And we're talking about Moby Dick by Herman God, Herman Melville. Sorry.
Herman Melville.
Herman Melville. So let's start with you, Vix. What are your thoughts about the book Moby Dick?
Well, it was kind of a book that had just about every possible nuance. You had philosophy, you had like the Plato action going on, you had whaling going on, it was like you had geography going on. I mean, there was something about this time that everybody wanted to talk about geography and about the industry. He explained so much about the whaling industry that it was kind of a slow burn getting the story going, I think, maybe sort of. But, he actually worked on a whaling boat, and I think he was kind of a jack of all trades. I think, didn't Herman Melville kind of like go through life a little bit, kind of from here to here until he, had a family. He struggled quite a bit. I mean, they didn't have a whole lot of money, but I mean, a lot went into making Moby Dick, and it was just great how I thought it was great. It wasn't great in high school. But, when you read other people, or if you pull up, Moby Dick explained by such and such, and every person there is my age or older. They're always saying, oh, you were forced to read it in high school. But when you've got an older pair of eyes and you have more life history, they say you can probably, the book clicks more. And that might be true because there's just... It's a descent into madness, much as life has been for the last year and a half, as well as, it's about humanity too. And about, about how these men all pull together and live on this ship. Cause these guys were gone for like 3 years at a time, just out there doing this. And it wasn't an easy job by any measure. It was dangerous. Which obviously, and I believe that Moby Dick was actually based on something called Mocha Dick. Is that how you say it? It was an actual whale that was a white sperm whale. And it had, they said that he was seen several times with 20 harpoons just flying around the Japanese Sea. So, I mean, it was an actual whale who actually took out a lot of boats and whatnot. And that's where he got his inspiration for calling it Moby Dick. But it wasn't received well. I guess it was probably not, I don't know why it wasn't received well, other than it just maybe was the marketing wasn't,
I guess if you look at other books around this time, I mean, the big books would be what Count of Monte Cristo was around the same time and stuff like this. And they're all like by foreign authors, from the American market. And they were talking about, the fantastic, and they have these romanticized versions of like the Mediterranean and all this other stuff. And I guess American audiences, were like not that thrilled about traveling around Maine and the Atlantic seaboard, I guess.
Right. But it's true. Mocha Dick was he was a real white whale off the island of Mocha. And the sailors first encountered him, said he was a 70-foot albino sperm whale known for swimming calmly next to whaling boats. And he wouldn't attack unless somebody made the first, aggressive move first. They said he was finally killed in 1839 and had at least 19 harpoons lodged in his side. There was another whale too that was the same way. I guess he sunk a ship called the Essex and the 20-person crew. They had a horrible nightmare. That's a novel in itself. They drifted helplessly for almost 4 months and over 3,000 miles with no food, no fresh water, except each other. So that's where he went with that. They kind of went the Andes on each other,
Let's go cannibal.
Yeah, they went cannibal, like Queequeg, who was the noble cannibal.
Well, I mean, the worst thing about it is like being out in the sea and being a cannibal because you're not even cooking the flesh.
Well, they said that it tastes good, though. I don't know. It looks all blurry.
It's probably salty.
Yeah, well, this is one of those movies. I mean, if you're into PETA, you probably don't want to read it because all the whaling, is really vivid. It's quite well presented, but it was a way of life, though.
Well, I think you have to also remember that whaling at this time, the reason why whaling was a thing back then is because the oil and everything that was using for the blubbers of whales was used for oil lamps and everything like that. Yeah. So, it wasn't just, nowadays whaling would just be considered, basically it's just hunting for sport nowadays.
I think the Japanese are the only ones that do it now, right? The Chinese and the Japanese.
Well, they have
the Japanese
thing about spirituality, and each part means something, and God knows what. You know what I mean? It's like whether any of that's, whether whether any of that does what it says on the tin is probably, susceptible. This is what they believe, sort of thing. It's like shark fins.
Well, I guess this novel just wasn't exciting enough for people back then because he had a hard time selling it. The first edition was out for quite some time.
Well, I mean, the thing is, the most exciting bit of the first third of the book is Call Me Ismael. And then you go, as you said, we go through quite a lot.
Well, the Brits kind of took the piss out of it. It was an American novel, but the British kind of, latched onto that one.
Yeah, but the British will do that about it at that time about English anyway. You got to remember, it's not that long after. There's only, there's still
you're
some
only appreciated when you're dead.
War.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wait, it said its total earnings made like $556 pounds, whichever, which in today's dollars is $253,000. So I mean, it wasn't that bad, but its popularity was torpedoed.
Well, I mean, if you consider at that time that the main, thing of entertainment was reading.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't like a serial. It wasn't in a couple different books, I think. And then finally they got tired of trying to print it. So they just put it in one condensed version because it wasn't making any money, which is kind of sad because he really didn't see the, fruition of his, labor writing it. He didn't ever witness that. It became a classic that everybody reads now.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of things that become like that. When they come out, they're not that successful. And then, something happens and there's a turn in something and all of a sudden becomes successful. Walt Disney's Fantasia was like that.
And also,
Walt Disney's Fantasia comes out, it was a big flop. People get on drugs in the 60s. They release it. It becomes now it's a huge hit. It's considered a classic now.
And you've got to wonder, though. I mean, he was writing as himself most of the time, but he says, "Call me Ismael." So people are wondering right off the bat, is he just saying, "Call me Ismael"? Who am I supposedly supposed to be? Is this first person, second person? And Ismael is really kind of, what's the word I want to use? It coincides with the Old Testament because Ishmael was
a prophet.
No, Ishmael was Abraham's illegitimate son who was expelled because Sarah was not happy about it. So his mother and him were
he was the start of the
kicked out. And so they became some of the lost tribes of Israel, I believe, Ishmaels.
Yeah, and that's where the Muslim religion starts.
So he was a nomad. They were nomadic of sorts. And so I think that had something to do with why he said, "Call me Ishmael," because they were all kind of orphans. All these people, weren't they not, But the best person who explained it, I sent you the link, was you have to give what is it?
That's really interesting.
The thug. What was it? The Thug's Life. Whatever.
Yeah,
I think I sent to you. I love him. He just explains things in just a good way. I loved his analogy. But
I mean, Ismael is, he basically is represented as the everyman person. Basically, he decides that, he is a nomad, he is an orphan, he's no family, no life sort of thing.
And it was cold in the November of his spirit, so he decided it was time to jump on a whaling boat.
Well, I can imagine. You also have to remember that where this story takes place is in Nantucket Town, which is in Maine.
Right.
Which is not the warmest places in November sort of thing. And then you get to see everything through his eyes. But at the end of the day, Ismael is not a participant. He's an observer.
He's participating.
He's participating in his job. And what he has to do is to get paid from day to day. But he's not really, he doesn't spend a lot of time as far as he's not forceful in creating where the characters go. The characters are all acting on their own impressions and he's right about it. But he's in no ways he's sitting there changing any of their opinions or changing any of the ways that they think. He's like the observer. He's like the omnipresent God who's overlooking everything. He's doing his chores and he's doing his job as a whaler and stuff like this. And he knows fully what's going on. But he doesn't really give too much of him. He doesn't really if people are having conversations, he doesn't say that he's for or against anything.
Well, he does show the warmth and camaraderie of his friendship with not the Christian people of the boat, but the cannibal, Queequeg, who was off trying to sell his heads, when he didn't meet him to begin with. He goes, he's selling his heads, He goes, what is that supposed to mean? They were shrunken heads. I don't know whether Queequeg took the heads himself and shrunk them, but I mean, they found a way to coexist. But I mean, they were so different, but so similar in their life path that it was a really cool friendship. He really just, they loved each other in the sense of friendship. But I thought that was a real strong point of the book.
Well, I think Queequeg and Ismael, I mean,
they're different than everybody else. They appear to be different than the rest of them.
Yeah, well, Ismael's not a whaler. Queequeg is cannibal from some tribe, and you got these two people, and then they're forced to share a bed. And it's almost like what brings them closer is the differences, and they realize they're not that different from each other.
No.
Which is, that's what I quite like. I mean, to be honest, when I read Moby Dick, I quite liked Moby Dick. I mean, I was like, I also noticed that if you notice on the Queequeg, the Pequod, that what you'll find is that every single group of man is represented. Every single type of man is presented. And I guess, I think maybe in the time that it was released that maybe, you don't pick up on that. I think now that we can pick up on that and, reflecting back on something is a lot easier to pick up on certain.
But there didn't seem to be any racial inequality on the ship because everybody had their job. And I think that wasn't even, they were just men working. And that was probably one of why the novel worked so well. They had different, a lot of them were superstitious. Some of them were Christian. Some of them were pagan, heathen, whatever you want to call it. But they all had a job to do. And even though they were all different, it really wasn't, I mean, from his experience being on actual whaling ships, that's probably how it was. I mean, you got, different people that congeal for all kinds of things.
And you have to look at the ethnicities as well. I mean, everyone was equal as far as the crew is concerned.
Right.
I mean, of course, the captain is above that. And if you look at that, like heads of state sort of thing, let's sit there and say, let's take the Pequod is a country, right? And Ahab is your president or whatever. And that's what, everyone in his state was equal. So, as long as you did the job you had to do.
Well, and then you got the Pequod. In and of itself, the name was a tribe that had been, I think, devastated by the white man coming in, So that right there told us the Pequod probably wasn't a good name for the ship because it didn't have a happy ending for the people's surname that it taken. But, I mean, I don't know if what's the word I want to use? It's all about symbolism. This book has so much symbolism. I mean, out of any other book I've ever read, the symbolism in this book, I mean, there's just every other paragraph, there's some kind of symbolic something or other, or something they're referring to as symbolism, like the gold doubloon. I mean, I was really surprised because I saw Gregory Peck's version before I read the book years ago. And when I found out that in the book, Ahab's the one that takes the gold, not the Gregory Peck character. And I always thought that was kind of, I didn't like that part in the book because I always wanted that to go to one of the other people that were working really hard because they were doing all the work. They were doing all the rowing. And Captain Ahab is like a divine right king throughout this whole book. He's up there with God. The whale is God. And Ahab is God,
Yeah, but let's take where you work at the moment. You have all your workers, then you have the people who own the company, and they're the gods of where you're working. You're doing all the work, and you're doing, all the heaving and all the hoeing and all the grunt work.
The rowing with the slaves,
and they're the ones getting all the benefits.
This is true.
Let's look at government. I mean, the thing is, you have all the citizens doing all the work, but then you have the high Mickey Mucks making all the decisions and basically making, getting all the gold for themselves, sort of thing, I guess you could say. So I think, when you look at, I think that's probably what makes Moby Dick work is that, you think, oh, this has nothing to do with me. And then you start reading it and you realize that everything in Moby Dick is very much alive today. Our lives are the same thing. We are all on the Pequod at the moment, being drifted out to sea by some godless or some leader that we hope will sit us and get us to where we need to go. Really,
right?
And what we want and what we need doesn't matter. All they want, and like Ahab, he gives his crew just enough to get by to keep them going, because at the end of the day, we're chasing after their dream. We're not chasing after the crew's dream.
But you did notice, though, that on each of the boating, with each boat, with the Pequods, the shipmates who are white, they're entirely dependent on the non-white harpooner, because the non-whites do most of the dangerous or the dirty work on the ship. Mm-hmm. And they're doing all the hard work, and they got the typical white dudes aren't doing all the hard work. I mean, that I did notice. So,
well, I mean, and that's another thing. You get that in the trade now. Let's sit there and say that you're coal miners. They didn't send the educated white people down into the coal mines. There's all the socioeconomic people who really needed jobs, and they were getting paid the pittance. Meanwhile, you had the foreman who wasn't doing crap at all, making 3 or 4 times the amount of money, not even down in the mine, sort of thing. The only time he actually did any work was when he had to call, when it caved in, and he had to try to find how to get his people out. And then he kind of wondered, was he getting his people out basically because he's like, oh shit, I might have to hire another crew, or was he really, wondering about their lives?
Right. But on the other hand, you got Ahab. And do you think you've got Starbuck, he wants to kill him because he knows this is a bad deal. He's so obsessed with this whale. And the whale is white, and everything that normally would be purity of whiteness or whatever he thinks is evil. This whale just represents everything evil. And this is probably one of the biggest descents into madness you see in any of the classics. I mean, because this is really madness. I mean, he doesn't care. He wants that whale. And when they have their gams, they have like 9 or 10 gams where the ships come up. And they want news, what's going on in these ports. And this is the only time they get news. It's like their AOL time, I guess, And that's when they find their news. And all he cares about is the whale. And the people that are on the ship working really need to talk to these people because it's healthy to find out what's going on other places. But he doesn't seem to share that same need. He just wants to know where this whale is. So they go around the Cape of, is it Good Hope or is it the Cape Horn? Which one is it? Not South America, but it's Africa. To get into the Japanese Sea is where he's supposedly at, I guess. But I mean, he doesn't care about the normal logistics of sailing at all. He's just hell bent on killing this whale. And I always think of the Wrath of Khan when he's spitting his last breath at him, He spits his last breath, or he's following around the flames of perdition. Ricardo Montalban just pops right into my head every time. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, we are dealing with when someone becomes obsessed about anything, and obsession consumes you anyway.
Oh, it's unhealthy.
And especially if the obsession has to do with revenge. And if you look at the revenge obsession scenario here with Ahab, I mean, the thing is Ahab goes after something. The thing, Ahab actually starts it. It's not like the whale, which is like swimming by and go, oh, I'll take Ahab's leg. No, Ahab was whaling. He goes after, the fish. The fish retaliates to bite his leg off. Ahab goes back home, and all of a sudden it's like, I need to go after this because he took my leg off. But then again, if you look at it, Ahab, if you weren't screwing around with the whale, you still have your leg.
Yeah.
But people, but you see that every day now, sort of thing. It's like, whether it's like, let's take Neighbors from Hell, sort of thing.
Right.
And the thing is like, there'll be one person will start about the fighting of the fence. Oh, I want, my fence should be here. And then it starts escalating and escalating and escalating. And then the person, who started it all, if they just sit there and just, they just have compromise at the beginning, it wouldn't turn into like this blood feel. And obsession is always over something a bit stupid where no one takes responsibility for themselves.
Right. But he drags the whole crew, and the crew, I mean, they swear fealty to his mad cause. And so they're all sucked up into this too.
Well, they all sucked up into it because they have the same belief of him, or they have the same, are they sucked
Well, they want this share of the money that's going to come.
Yeah, because he's going to like, I think, 10%, his 10% to share with all of them. Which was a lot back then of Ahab's till for whatever they bring back, but they're not coming back, are they?
I mean, they might have been on, they might have been on the voyage for revenge, but at the end of the day, they're there for
they're whalers.
They're there for profit, not there for belief. for their belief system, or because they believed it. They didn't believe in what they were doing. They just knew that there was money at the end of the trail.
Well, this is where you guys might know this is where I got lost, and maybe you guys picked up on this. But Fedallah, those guys really don't show up much in the book, and then they show up, and then he's prophesizing about the whale. Fedallah did he not?
Well, that was from Elijah, wasn't it?
Well, Elijah was in the movie. Fedallah, I thought, was was speaking a little prophecy in the book, wasn't he? And he was the guy. He was the
at the beginning.
Persian. I don't know, but they weren't English. They weren't from another whatever. I think the Fertile Crescent was mentioned or something.
Yeah, at the beginning, before they go to the ship, this man said something like that. But it was like they're not taking him serious because he seems to be like a bit crazy.
Well, they're special whalers, aren't they? They're like Ahab's devils.
And
right?
I think he was saying something about the captain. I think they think what happened here is like this man, Starbuck, in one moment he said, well, this is like a kind of like a business. We're going there to catch whales because of the meat and the oil. Rather, the captain was in another state.
Right.
He just wanted to go around to see if he could catch the white one, that Moby Dick. So he didn't have not the same plan. So it's like kind of is like if you're in a ship and everyone's not having the same vision and go to the same direction, it's like the captain didn't have anything to lose because he would die to kill the whale. Rather, the other ones were just kind of doing a job. So
right, and Fedallah is the one that gets wrapped up in the ropes on the whale. It isn't Ahab. Ahab just sticks himself to the whale by stabbing him with the harpoon. So he's going to town on him, you know. I mean, Ahab's getting it.
What I really like about this book, I mean, is like at the beginning, it's explained everything really on detail, and it was started to name some places. So I thought, well, are these places existing or is like imaginary? I didn't check if the place where this Quick was real, but then I checked the other place. I can't remember the name now. I'm really bad with names.
Nantucket and all that.
Yes.
That church actually exists, but I think it's in Gloucester.
Yes. And I checked on the map and I saw the area and they were talking about there was a lot of sun.
Yeah.
And I'm standing in front of a map to see if I can see it right now, but
that's going to bug me. Is that a real island where Queequeg came from?
I haven't.
Pogo, or whatever it's called. I can't remember the name.
They mentioned something called Cape something, not Cape Green.
Well, they're talking about the Cape Horn and Cape of Good Hope, and both are supposed to be real scary crossings or.
Yeah, well, if it is Cape Green, exists. I can't remember. I'm really bad with names. As I said, also I'm
the one that Queequeg's from. That's a good question because it's not a real island that he visited or whatever. And I believe
it could be,
South Pacific cannibals, what they referred to him as.
There's so many little islands it could be, like.
Oh God, yeah, there's plenty.
So, but I really like how he explained on detail, and as you said, after the chapter that you get used to, but as you said also, it's like in one moment I said, "Oh, come on, go to the ship," describing you everything, but nothing on the sea, and then yeah.
Well, then you have you got this. It's reminiscent throughout the book. It's sort of like when the Rachel comes up, and they have what is it? They call it a qualm or whatever. What do they call it? They're talking. Apparently, he's lost his son and somebody else. The
pirate on the other.
And the Rachel. Yeah, but they're all basically orphans. These men, and that's kind of It's that same idea is circumvented and brought up quite a few times, especially by Ismael, because they're all by themselves basically. Mm-hmm. In the end, it doesn't matter. If you're going to die, you're going to die, and you can have 1 million people around your bed when you're dying, but that's still that one journey that you're doing alone. People can be there, but when you're dying, you are totally alone. And he kind of put, that was kind of a sad kind of thing he kept bringing through his pages every so often. It's just like, well, how depressing. It was a depressing novel. It was really dark and sad because the whole time you're thinking, I don't know if you've ever been to like Cape Cod or places like that, but they are dismal in November. And the Northeast is like overcast and, and it is dark and it is like, the great December in your soul kind of thing. And it's just this movie that the book, not so much the movie, but the book kind of makes you feel cold and damp throughout the whole thing because it's not a happy story. There's really no happiness in this story.
Well, I mean, and you also have to look at the shipping, we're traveling on a ship at this time. I mean, it's not a cruise ship, you don't have casinos and 24-hour buffet and a dance in a pool. Basically, it's probably leaky and
smelly
and smelly and no shower or bathing techniques or anything like that.
Surely they must have jumped overboard once in a while and bathed. I mean, God.
I don't know on the Pequod, but I don't know what the other ships, but the Pequod just seemed to keep sailing forward. Don't stop. Keep going.
Yeah,
so
it's
I doubt that they spent a time in a lagoon somewhere.
Yeah.
So let's jump in. Let's have a nice little swim sort of thing.
Well, when you think about the hygiene back then, it just had to be really rough. I mean, did people actually just get used to the smell of other people's body odor? Or it was just something that you got used to or what?
I guess it is you smell every single day of your life.
I mean, it's not like they had Vicks Vapor Rub to put under your nose back then. But they might have had something similar when you think about it.
Well, if you think it's like on that time, and the majority of the people that like kind of like was going on ships, doing certain jobs like this, they were. I think it's like they didn't have nothing like much to lose, or they were really poor, and it's like. There's what like when Christopher Columbus crossed, well, they said they discovered they reached to the Central America, right? And there was an Argentinian actor that he went to a museum in Spain to see the ships and a replica of the ships, and there was look, they were really, really small. When you learn history, that you imagine a huge galleon, and it was like a really small ship that maybe I don't know. There were like 30 people there all together. But it was like, as I said, it was like people that were like, maybe, I don't know, nothing to lose. And it's like, it was that, or I don't know, dying on the street because you were like, I don't know, really poor and you even have a plate of food. So you would be choosing, okay, well, I can live without taking a shower every day. As long as I have food.
No. I mean, that's very rare. I mean, I mean, if I get up and just don't go take a shower before I even go to Walmart,
Yeah, we won't last not even.
I would not last long in the 1840s or the 30s because you know what? Men at least could hide stuff with their facial hair. Women just looked rough back then. They just did. They just looked rough. And I mean, you could tell they worked hard too. Women did. I mean, it's not like they had a washing machine and a dryer and the dishwasher and your side-by-side refrigerator. I mean, things were tough back then for them too. And just think of how the women folk must have felt. It must have been great getting rid of their old man for 3 years, as long as he was sending the money home,
Well, the thing is, they didn't send the money home though. I mean, they had to wait.
Well, they had to live off of what they previously made, but I think they got some form of, what do you call it? An advance before they got on that. They had to sign for the 3 years. Can you imagine being gone for 3 years? And I mean, and you know that, and I'm all whaling aside. Whaling is a cruel thing. It's sort of up there with being Matador.
Yeah.
I just don't like the cruelty of it. And it was like my friend took me whale watching in Big Sur in California. I was telling Keith about 3 years ago. And these are huge animals and it's humbling. I mean, their backs are like the size of a huge kitchen table and they're coming up underneath your boat. And they're wild animals. And, and the fishermen were telling us that just 30 years prior to that, or 50 years prior to that, they were still whaling in those waters. And they would call them devilfish because they would come up and they would see any boat, any fishing boat, and they would capsize it or come down on it. So they knew these animals know what was going on back then. And then some of these, and now, they see people come and you're always hitting the water. It's like, come here, I want to pet you kind of thing, but they will push their babies up to the boat And I mean, when just 3 decades before, they were going to kill you, you know? I mean, so they're highly sensitive, evolved animals, more so probably than human beings, because you don't see them screwing each other over for percentage, you know?
Well, the interesting thing is that man is considered one of the, brightest animals on the face of the earth.
Well, they say. True. I often wonder.
It's not true. Man uses 13% of his brain. A dolphin uses 82% of his brain.
Say that again, sorry.
I said man uses 13% of their brain.
Yeah.
A dolphin.
Yes. I mean, how does one fill their head? I mean, 13%, that's not a lot. So, I mean, when you think, that's mind-blowing, considering all the stuff you think you've got in your head, that we've read, that we've experienced, that we've done. And it is mind-blowing that we don't hardly use any of our brain. And that these mammals...
Well, it's not that mind-blowing if you go out into the street on a normal day.
Well, yeah, I know. I just got back from home, okay?
I think that's less than 13% there.
But I do love my people that are there. But I mean, it just amazes me how, it's in our nature to destroy ourselves. And most of nature just wants to strive to succeed and into, longevity and success of their, their species.
The difference between nature and man is that man is driven by ego. And that's what tends to... Right.
This book was all about ego, kind of, wasn't it? Or, I mean, there had to be a certain amount of ego, especially for Captain Ahab. I mean, he's got these guys, he's got them all by the balls. I mean, these guys are shit and scared of him. And I would have mutinied if I thought that, just regular whaling was dangerous. But this whale, for all dimensions, was obnoxiously big for a regular sperm whale. Even the real life whale was huge. He was 70 feet. That's huge. That's scary. I
mean, another thing I guess you need to look at, even in today's setting, and that's something that you're working somewhere horrible, or wherever like that, and your manager is horrible and everyone hates them. It's very rare that people leave, because at the end of the day, you need that paycheck.
Yeah, you suck up a lot. You do.
What happens if you do a mutiny on Ahab? Do you get paid at the end of your voyage, or you get home?
Well, no, they would. But back then, think about it. There wasn't a human resources. Maybe Starbucks was the closest thing to human resources, but he even wanted to kill him.
Well, even if there was a human resources, chances are, most times, even the human resource today, they don't really go for the employee too often.
No, the human resources is there to protect the company, not the employee.
Exactly.
That's always been my experience.
They protect the employer, not the employee.
Yeah, they don't do nothing for the employee. Trust me.
And another thing is like, if they did mutiny, I mean, they did stop Starbucks from, becoming mutiny. Because the question basically is, if you do mutiny and you bring that whaling ship back, do these people get paid? There's that as well. Yeah,
I know. But I mean, if somebody's that dangerous and that they don't have your best interest at heart, and what did one do? I mean, sort of like the mutiny on the Bounty. They got sick of, Captain, what's his face? What was his name?
I mean, think about it. You're doing a job for 2 years and you're going to get paid at the end of the 3 years, and you do mutiny at 2 years. So you go back and you basically that 2 years that you did all that hard work, get nothing.
But who's going to know? He could have fallen overboard. I don't know,
something that really caught my attention, and this one is like, they were, in one part of the book at the beginning, they said like, a lot of people from that town kind of like, they were having shares on those ships. So even the people that were going on there.
They owned that boat as a collective.
Yeah, and also like all the community owned that ship, and it's like they were bringing people things to help those seamen, and then one. I imagine that's why they probably don't know that mutiny didn't happen, and also there was one, I can't remember the name, but one person that he didn't kind of like trust fully in Starbuck. He was like saying, "No, look, the captain is a good captain. He was not taking us to die." Well, it didn't happen, but
yeah, it was yeah. But if you see somebody that clearly was not sane, and I mean, he was passing up jobs, like regular whaling. This is what they were there to do. They didn't sign on just for, I mean, did Ahab own the Pequod? I don't think he did.
He didn't, but he is the captain. The captain is the boss.
But do you think that the company would have really appreciated that?
Is God.
Well, as far as I know, I mean, it's like the captain in the boat or in a plane is like kind of the police, right? Like kind of like the one who rules, right? Then you can have others and you can do things, but if someone has to decide something like yes or no, that will be the captain. You know, like, I don't know, if someone has to be killed, let's say, or they need to leave someone
before we hit the iceberg, or do we sit there and just turn?
Yeah,
the captain makes that decision. Everyone on that ship is the captain's responsible for. But the question basically is, if you do a mutiny, what you also have to remember is that you have to get 100% of the crew on board with the mutiny.
Right.
Because if you only get 90% and you go back to sea and you have 10% that doesn't believe in it, what do you have now?
Right.
You know, that's another thing. And it's a bit like, overturning a leader of a country.
Yeah.
Well, basically.
I don't know,
your country on board.
Starbuck couldn't do it. I mean, he didn't.
It's really interesting, you know, how, because I think the minute that he put that gold coin on the mast, right, and said, well, whoever catch it will get the coin. It's like a kind of still keeping a whole spirit of all together. Said, okay, let's go, and it's like kind of everyone start like a competition where whoever is there will try to do something, you know, so the other one doesn't do it, you know. It's like, it's really interesting the way it happened.
Yeah. You kind of wanted to root for the crew, though. You wanted them to live. You knew even when you're reading the book, you know it's going to have a dark ending. I mean, there's really not even a spoiler alert for that. You just know that it's not going to end well.
But I think this is where we come up with some of the symbolism in Moby Dick, because at the end of the day, if you are a blind follower,
right,
then if you're following the wrong person, that can lead to your doom. And we get this like with cult leaders, you know, Jim Jones. I mean, he's like an Ahab. Basically, he's obsessed with whatever, and basically leads all these people to their own death, and they're just blind followers. Or, you know, Waco or wherever, even let's say Charles Manson sort of thing. They Manson family. I mean, you know, they're following him blindly. You know, if you follow someone blindly, then they can lead you to your own doom. And I think that's pretty much what we have here.
Right.
And basically, whenever we do get Ismael, basically is the one left to sell the story. But at the same time, you know, who basically rescues Ismael?
The Rachel,
who's basically picking up orphans out of the sea.
Right. They're still looking for their children, and they found him. And they took the epilogue out of this book a couple different times. Did it say why? I could never find a reason why they took the epilogue out.
I guess it's because, you know, do you leave it with a, you know, I guess that's, you know, a bit like movies sometimes or whatever. Sometimes like they might have an added ending that they might add on, or just sometimes you take it off, or I guess.
Well, I mean, it seems like you kind of have to have the epilogue, you know. I was left to tell the tale, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, if you look at the name of Rachel, I mean, what is Rachel?
She mourns the loss of her children in the Bible.
Precisely. And it's a mother.
A lot of biblical alignments with this book.
There's a lot of
Abrahamic. I want to say Abraham, the gods of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or whatever. There was a lot of the Old Testament. Lines
at the beginning when they go to there's a whole chapter really long about they're in church and they're explaining about what happened with Noah and all that.
They were talking about and they were talking about Jonah. Did they talk about Jonah?
Yeah.
I think it's Noah. Mm-hmm. You call it Noah. You know, the one who sailed with all the animals. I think mentioned something about that, and also like saying like, they have a lot of like. Well, and it's when Quick have to sign that he make a cross,
right.
In the movie, you know, he made a sign of a whale, but in the book that appears is like a sign of a cross.
Right.
So because he have to be baptized to be able to be in the ship, so kind of imagine he understood what they were talking about and make that sign. So he's okay, he's a Christian.
Well, that's true, though. It didn't matter from what denomination or what creed, color they were. That's true about that church. Before a lot of boats would take to sail, they would really frequent that church. And a lot of those plaques are still there for, to this day. I mean, I think they added the perfect storm. What was
that for me was really interesting, because all the other books that we have been reading about, sea stories about
those seafaring people. They have a memory.
Or pirates. You were not expecting that they are really religious or believing in something of the Bible.
Superstitious, though, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, no, superstitious, yes, but this one is, for example, more like, okay, you have to be baptized to be able to be in the ship. Whereas in the other ones, it's like, well, as long as you want to jump in the boat and work, you're okay.
We also have to remember that this is an American tale, and America's puritanical at this moment.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we try to. I always think it's funny how we try to be puritanical, and we're the biggest sinners there are. But everybody's talking about it. Puritanical just never. It just never seemed to coincide with our.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, me not being English or from USA, I'm having English as a second language. This book, it was for me clearer to read than Treasure Island or the other ones, but they have all that, but kind of vocabulary of pirates that is really hard to understand for me. This one is clear, so.
It didn't have a lot of, major, I don't know. It didn't have a lot of the fancy schmancy, phasing into paragraphs and everything. And what do you guys think about the chapters were paragraphs. I mean, they were quick. When you see a book that sports 130 something chapters, you're going, oh
my God.
Yeah.
No,
but they're short chapters. So, I mean, it's defeatist just to look at it from that particular view. So,
yeah.
So I guess what we'll do is talk about what are your final impressions of the books. Talking with you, Leandro. What's your final impressions of Moby Dick?
Bit long. Yeah, for sometimes when you're reading and then okay, the story is going this way, but come on, stop describing. I don't know how the person grab a cup of tea and put it in the mouth.
He did overreach. I think that's probably why he had a hard time selling his book.
Yeah, well, I was talking to a friend about this book, and I was mentioning this, and my friend said, "Well, look, and it's true." He said, "This book is not new; it's old, and you have to understand the way that it was written and reading at that time, right? It was different. These days, you want the information quick, processed, ready to go, and then carry on.
Exactly.
And this is really interesting because demands you that you sit down and read and understand, and then I really enjoy it. Yeah,
that was a good point, though. That's a really good point.
Yeah, no, but it's true.
People want the information real fast, and back then they didn't get it real fast. So,
and what's really interesting because the book that we read before was Alice in Wonderland, and I was able to see the contrast that is happening like that. Carry on, really short the story. But this one is go in detail, explain you everything, or every terminology, or making, as we said, biblical references where you need to think a bit more to understand what's the comparison that they're trying to make. No, I enjoy it. Yeah, I like it. Worth the time.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Vix?
I hated it in high school, but I mean, like the guy that was explaining it, sometimes I need someone to explain a literature to me. So it helps me understand the book a little more, especially for some reason, the Edgar Allan Poe age, I call it, because sometimes I have a hard time getting around their verbiage. I mean, I have to sit there. I mean, this wasn't that hard to do. I mean, it was actually an easy book. I was just an impatient child and did not want to read 130 pages of whatever in ninth grade. It's just like, oh, fuck, man, it's such a long book. But I mean, like the gentleman said, I believe it was a professor was given the allegory, but it was a really good book. And he was going on to discuss it, and he draws a lot of parallels. I mean, he's citing a lot of Plato. He's citing a lot of the Abrahamic religions. I mean, he really thorough. I mean, he throws a lot of information. It's culturally and, and philosophically, the book covers like just about anything. I mean, it's that one of those books that has all kinds of nuances to it. So yeah, it's enjoyable at this age. And I actually liked it. I mean, it is hard to read towards the middle. He does take a long time explaining it. There's the geography, sort of like, the Count of Monte Cristo. There's just a big geography history lesson. It's just like, come on now, But other than that, it's a great book.
I mean, personally, I really like Moby Dick. I do think it's a book that's better palated, not towards teenagers, but when you're an adult, because I think that you actually
that's like the teachers were saying on the
a bit like the symbolism all makes sense, and you realize that the quad is pretty much like your own life sort of thing, and that basically following a leader blindly could lead to your own demise. That's separate, there's the different themes in it. Wasn't it what they said that I remember one of the things I was reading that basically you can either sit back and being an observer of life, but if you look for the meaning of life, it probably will kill you or harm you badly. Exactly. And I quite like that sort of thing. And then basically, and I also quite like the fact that Moby Dick survives. I quite like that idea.
Yeah, basically. I'm glad. Well, I'd like to see the whale. I just because man always seems to conquer nature in one capacity or another. Or, you have the full out extinction of whales almost because of this industry, which was very barbaric. And I mean, in our day and age, we don't have the need for it. We really don't. And they are just beautiful, wondrous animals. So yeah, am I against whaling completely? But I mean, it was such a hard life though, too, for the families involved. And it was, I mean, he demonstrates that because the author does live through whaling. He has gone around the world on the whaling ship. So he knows what he's talking about.
Another thing is, I mean, if you look at the theme of Moby Dick, a gigantic white sperm whale. I mean, we still keep that theme in a lot of our classic, films. King Kong, the gigantic, the obsession of contact, getting King Kong, Godzilla, which we'll be covering this month. Man's, trying to control this great big, sort of thing, and man's always
trying to control everything that he has no control over.
He doesn't always win. No. So I quite like that.
So did I. I was glad that the whale won. You got to wonder these whales, though. I mean, because they actually did keep these harpoons. I mean, they swam around till they fell out, or they were finally done under. I mean, God, it's just barbaric. It sort of reminds me of how they put all those knives into the bull, bullfighting. It just, oh God, there's just some things I just can't handle, and that's just killing animals senselessly is not one of my things. But it does demonstrate another time in another place, though. And that's what he set out to do. Poor guy didn't reach he didn't know anything that he was that good until he died. And that's when he was appreciated, much the same as most other artists or whatever.
This brings us to Moby Dick, the 1956 film, which is a color film adaptation of Herman Melville's 1851 novel Moby Dick. It was directed by John Huston, with a screenplay by John Huston and Ray Bradbury, and the film starred Gregory Peck, Richard Baseheart, and Leo Genn. What we're going to do is cut to the trailer and be right back after the Moby Dick trailer.
Ever since the beginning of time, man has pitted himself against the power of the sea to learn its secrets, to solve its mysteries. Many stories have been told of ships and the men who sail them, of sea beasts and the men who hunt them. But none has captured the imagination through the years so much as Herman Melville's immortal story of Captain Ahab, who lost his very soul in the bitterness of vengeance against the great white whale, Moby Dick.
You're to look for the white whale. The whale as white and as big as a mountain of snow. To chase that white whale on both sides of land and over all sides of earth till he spouts black blood and rolls dead out.
Ahab, think what they're doing. I beg thee, think.
Set the mainsail!
No, sir, no.
Mr. Starbuck, are you opposing me? If so, I'll have you know that there's one God that is Lord over the earth and one captain over the Pequod.
A whale can stave in the ribs of the biggest ships, swallow whole crews, pick its teeth with the oars. Mind, lad, if God ever wanted to be a fish, he'd be a whale. Believe that, he'd be a whale.
Did you see him, men?
Hello, welcome back to Literary License Podcast, and we're discussing Moby Dick, the 1956 film, and starting with you, Vicky. What are your thoughts of the 1956 film of Moby Dick?
Well, I liked it. I didn't hate it. I love Gregory Peck. He's like one of my favorite silver screen, whatever, color screen actors kind of thing. But I thought I was paying more attention to the history behind it. I guess him and John Huston did not have a real love affair while they were making this movie, apparently. And apparently Gregory Peck was not his first pick, which kind of hurt Gregory Peck's feelings, apparently, down the road. And then him and Angelica Houston had rekindled some kind of friendship because she was like 4 or 5 when she was on the set of this, watching her father direct this movie. But they didn't stick completely to the book, but I think they caught the darkness, because even the film, I don't know what you call that. I'm not the big film expert like you and Joe and the rest of our other co-hosts are, but it was a dark film and it made the color kind of contrasty, black and white kind of color. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a dark film. And Gregory Peck does a real, they said that Gregory Peck was too young for the Captain Ahab part, but I thought he was perfect for Captain Ahab. I thought that Ismael, Richard Baseheart, was supposed to be like 20. He was too old for the film, I thought.
Yes.
He was not a young boy. And I don't know why they didn't cast him. You just don't know what John Huston was after. But I liked how they did their little special effects and how they explained how they did that. Because you could tell now, we look for it now because we're just spoiled rotten with, special effects now. And Steven Spielberg, glory. But I thought they did a fantastic job with the whale. I liked it when the whale's mouth is open and he's coming for the boat. So you see his mouth opening. I got a kick out of that. I liked that. But I thought the story was great. Leandro obviously liked it. What did you like, Leandro?
Well, I really enjoyed that part that you're mentioning about the whale.
The whale and his eye, the snout coming open.
No, the mouth is like, remind me of like the old movie when they have to show like a T-Rex or something like that. And you realize that it's like not even look real, and it was really narrow, the mouth. So the whole is going to be able to eat, I don't know, a boat or something like that.
Well, I mean, he was smashing the boats and stuff. I mean, you could tell that, you know, and he had all the harpoons. My favorite part of the whole movie, though, was the end where Gregory Peck is like stuck onto him and he's beckoning with his arm. You know, come on, we're not done yet. I'm dead, but come on.
As you said, yes, it's true that in some part of the movies, like even the music seems to really like dramatic or dark, but I like it. Yes, I agree with you with this. I don't remember the name. The man who was Ismael, he was too old for that part.
But I love Queequeg. I loved him. He was like a great Queequeg. He was the perfect Queequeg. He really was.
Is he a famous actor?
He was a French actor, I believe. Friedrich von, maybe no, I don't know what he is. Friedrich von.
He'd be German.
I'm butchering his name. What is that? German?
He'd be German. I think he's German or Swiss.
Oh.
He did not look German.
It was a familiar face. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I really enjoy how they made it. You know, how they summarize maybe, I don't know, 20 chapters in 5 minutes or less.
Right.
And even, you know, how they kept part that like similar, like for example, when they said they go to the church and then you see that the church looks like a boat, like a ship.
That's what it looks like, though. That's what it really looks like.
Oh, really?
That's real church.
Oh, wow. Well, I thought it was like...
Nope, that's how the pulpit was. I haven't been there in eons, but there's one in Gloucester and there's one and where is it? Nantucket. I haven't been to that one. The one in Gloucester is still there. Wow. I think. Don't get me to lying. Someone's going to challenge me on that. But yeah, that's how they looked, and they still have the they still have the ship names on there. Even if you watch The Perfect Storm, they show that. They showed one of those churches, and they added, you know, the Andrea Gale to that. I think that's the name of that ship that never came back in The Perfect Storm. That would have really sucked because that was a real bad nor'easter. I remember that. I would not have been on the water for that one. But I mean, I thought that Queequeg was perfect for that because he's got all those tattoos. Those they did him really good for 1956. They made him look really viable. And who was it? Who else was the other guy? Well, Pip the cabin boy. I think Pip the cabin boy was hitting the rum because he was like hitting that tambourine all the time. I kind of felt bad for Pip. You just never know. I would not want to have been a cabin boy on a 3-year voyage. That's all I've got to say about that.
What I also like was like, I don't know if maybe for you, I don't know, but for me, give you a better give you an insight of how is the life on a ship. For example, we have watched other movies, but in this one, for example, they say that they have a blacksmith, they have a man that was a carpenter,
right? It was like it was a floating village, really.
Yeah.
I mean, they had just about everything. They would probably had to have an iron worker there just because of the harpoons. That had to be a constant job probably for a whaling boat, I'm assuming.
Well, if you think, you know, the minute you throw a harpoon and if you miss that, unless you have a rope and you can't retrieve it. But imagine if you're in the motion of, I don't know, chasing a whale that is carry on, you can't be there like trying to retrieve a harpoon that has gone on like 20 meters down in the sea. Right. No, I really enjoyed some effects are really funny. Like, for example, when the captain is sitting on a boat and then you see that the back is not real.
Oh, I know, the boat, and it's really stiff, and it's just like you see it stuck in the whale's mouth.
Yeah. Or when this man Starbuck is sitting on the boat and someone is talking to him, and you realize that the sky is not real. It's like he's sitting on a normal chair.
I think they used actual whaling scenes, though, from actual boats.
I don't know. I really enjoyed, it's really clever how, I don't know how they did it. Like, when they were throwing the harpoons, that was looking real. And
there was actual. I can't remember the name of they shot it. Oh yeah, with real action of whaling done by whalers out of Madeira Island. Did I say that right? Portugal.
Really, really clever. The way it was really like believable when they threw in the harpoon and there was like the boats were pulled by that. No, I really enjoyed.
They superimposed the black and white print on a color print to make it look the way it did. So I don't know. There's not a name for that, I guess.
I don't know if it was my impression, but it was a moment in the movie that I think when Moby Dick appeared, that I think for a second to me it went like kind of black and white. Yeah. So you could see that the white of the, let's say, the whale is like white. No, I really enjoyed the movie.
I think John Huston did the John Huston was the voice of Peter Coffin and as the Pequod Lookout.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think.
What about you, Keith?
I think the Moby Dick, the movie. I mean, the thing is, I think it does an adequate job. I think of giving you the skeleton of the novel. But I think with a book like Moby Dick, I think it's always going to be quite difficult to bring this to screen because there's a lot of subtext that it's really hard to show. That you kind of have to be told, and you kind of get that with a narrative within a book, and it's kind of hard to put that into a visual aspect.
I think Patrick Stewart did a version of Captain out of Moby Dick, and I think that Gregory Peck actually played Orson Welles' part as the pastor, and. That one was, if I can remember correctly, that was a lot more in depth. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, but it's still really quite hard to read in a film about, the different characters, all the men in there and what their religions are and where their different backgrounds are and how they're all working.
Really totally. And to be honest, and that's part of out of film completely.
I mean, outside it, and I think that with a film, I think all you can do is pretty much chase after Ahab's obsession, and this is what your film's about,
Right.
Ahab's this obsession as he's going towards Moby Dick. But then when you look at the book is actually a lot more than that, really, sort of thing. That's what drives the novel forward, but it's also an understanding about the human condition and, politics and government and leaders and, religion and following it forward and so on and so forth. But overall, I mean, I think that the film does an adequate job, and I think it's done a better job than some of the other classic novel movies.
Yes,
but
I thought they did a good job with it. I love Gregory Peck in this movie. I like any of his performances. He was just one of those really strong actors that always finish strong, no matter. Sort of like Charlton Heston, They just have a strong finish. Doesn't matter whether the role might suck or the writing might suck. They just make it sound good. No matter what it is. And I thought he carried it well. I mean, right down.
I think he acted it well. I do think his age was too young for the part, though.
Well, yeah, but they made him look kind of old. I mean, he did look. He had the rough skin, the beard.
He still looked like. I mean, this is Gregory Peck pre To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Yeah, his articles, right?
Yeah,
that's why that's what the face was familiar. Now that you say yes.
No, I love this movie with Jennifer Jones, Duel Under the Sun. That was like one of my favorites. That was like,
or even The Omen. He's fantastic.
The Omen was great. Yeah, he did great in that. He's just got a commanding.
With Gregory Peck, I mean, he does have a he does give a great performance, and there is, and to be honest, your eye is drawn to him. He's great at that. But when you look at the age, you're like Captain Ahab, it's because Captain Ahab's supposed to be like, so sea where
he was supposed to be an old salt, probably in his 60s or 70s.
Well, I mean, to be honest, probably was in his 40s, sort of thing.
Well, that's because it was a hard
life. People didn't live that
then.
long in those days, but but at the same time, there should have been like a weariness to him. I mean, your face would have pretty much been like screwed from years and years and decades of seawater being, the sea air and the sea water pretty much like bleaches out.
Not to mention having a crippling, thing like that happen. You know how much pain he probably is in. I mean, because they probably didn't really do a really good job of, stitching him up back then.
Well, no, what they would cauterize is they would burn the stump, didn't they? And then once it was burnt, that's when they would put the stump into the into the boiling flesh that sat there and say, and then you had to heal around it, and then your flesh had to grow into it.
That just sounds awful. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I probably wouldn't have been in a happy mood either, but I mean, he kind of struck you as a likable chap in the movie for most of the movie.
Well, that's the problem. I think that's probably the problem a little bit, because I think when you cast Gregory Peck, I think
you don't want to like him. You want to dislike
him.
Ahab.
Yeah, and you kind of have to. I think you kind of have to dislike him. I think he needs to be like this kind of person that there's a horror. There's a mystery about, I think if you're going to film it, you need a mystery about Ahab, so that way, and with that mystery, you have this foul character who's lead by his obsession, but you got to kind of be drawn to him.
Right.
But I think Gregory Peck, you do like. I think you kind of like him too much. I think you end up liking him more than what you should do for a character that's, I mean, to be honest, you should be emphasizing against the, your empathy shouldn't be with Ahab. It should be with the crew and with the whale.
I feel sorry for the crew. I didn't really feel sorry for the whale because he just kicked ass. I mean, the whale didn't need my empathy or my sympathy because
I mean, the whale is basically doing what it's supposed to do. The whale did not do anything at all.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is like the whale is an innocent bystander in all this. It's a bit like if you're walking down the street and someone that you pass basically gets this obsession about doing you harm for no apparent reason. You're the innocent bystander. You haven't done anything. This person's the asshole, the idiots are coming after you. And it's kind of like that all the time, sort of thing. And then it'd be a bit like, this person that, you can't, let's take it like horror film sort of thing. You have the killer going after the person, and the person defends themselves, gets away, ends up living. The killer gets maimed or whatever like this. The sequel comes along, and then the killer decides to go after the person that they were firstly attacking. And you're like,
so basically, Moby Dick is the final girl, or is Ismael the final girl? Ismael?
Yeah, kind of like that. It's kind of like, and to be honest, Captain Ahab went after him. He bit his leg off, as we said before, and then the guy, because he retaliated to save his own life because he's being attacked, the person that gets his leg cut off goes, I'm going back after him. Well,
did you find it ironic? You got Starbuck. He just totally wants to just get rid of him. He wants to shoot Captain Ahab. But in the end, the madness just descends upon him too, because you see Ahab beckoning from the whale because he's tied up in the nets and the harpoon ropes, and he goes, "Let's go get him." And that they're looking at him like, "What? You want to go get him?" He goes, "He's just a whale. We're whalers. This is what we do." So let's go get the white whale. So.
Well, I guess another thing is that
Starbuck loses it.
What you also have with the movie and with the film is that basically you hear so much about, what this thing is like building up this expectation and this everything, and then when you finally see it, it's just like, oh, sort of thing. Does it? Does Moby live up to the expectation? Can you imagine, like, you're at sea, hearing about this white whale that's and
like he's some kind of white god that's going to come out. Yeah.
And you know what people are like, but it's a bit like, there's a tadpole in the sewer. By the end of it, there's an alligator in the sewer or something. So
probably reached incredible, what's the word? More emphasis than need be.
Yeah, it's kind of like, he just becomes something that it's not, sort of thing, isn't it? Moby Dick was, a great big white whale. By the time they got to him, he basically floats and had magical powers. By the time,
the Pequod that they portrayed that they used was actually named the Moby Dick, the ship that portrayed the Pequod, and that was built in 1887. And the ship came into the hands of the film industry in the 50s. That was an old ship.
Mm.
I mean, that was practically antiquity at this point. That ship been around for a while. They also used it in the Treasure Island movie.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was destroyed by a fire in England in 1972. That was that was a shame, because that was like a floating relic as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, I guess that's another thing you have to remember as far as like shipping in those days. Like, you have a harpoon person who's working with ironwork.
Yeah.
Dealing with hot metals on a wooden ship.
Yeah.
And it doesn't include like gunpowder and everything that was on the ship at the same time, sort of thing.
But it has been hailed as the rolling, thundering film, great motion pictures of all times. They always say that, though. Every old film I like is the best film of all time, you know, with a cast of thousands. The Cecil B. DeMille stuff, you know.
I mean, I think Moby Dick is a good film. I think it, you know, it's like it's like an overscape of the book, you know, sort of thing. It gives you some of the points, sort of thing. I said before, I do think that Moby Dick, the book, is there's a lot more nuances that I think that'd be quite incredible or impossible to film and put all that into it.
Well, I don't think any film, there's just no way you can put every nuance of the book into a film. And that's where you're lucky to have the artistic license. Yeah, I mean, there's just no way. It's sort of like, you know, when they try to do the Bible movies, you can't put all of Genesis into one movie. You just can't.
Well, Genesis has like, isn't Moses in Genesis? No, it goes all the way
wrote Moses. Genesis, supposedly.
But. Yeah, so basically it's got everything before Moses, isn't it? So it's like, so everything is like, you know, Noah, Cain and Abel, Garden of Eden, all that's in Genesis.
Yeah, Job, Samuel,
Yeah, so it's almost like, you know, a collection of short stories or thing all shoved into one little book.
Well, this kind of, you know, well, this book had a lot of chapters, let's face it. I wonder why he did it that way.
You know, the thing is, I think you have to remember at this time period is that basically, I think that the reason why with classic novels, and, you know, we might as well do this now and to review back on our classic novel side of things, because this is our last classic novels. And I think what I did learn is that you have to remember that people are not like us back then. And I'm not talking about, you know, like us as in that you couldn't travel. You didn't spend time traveling. You didn't have the television, you didn't have films, you didn't have anything.
No internet, no Google.
All you had, if you wanted to know about anything, is you read. And when you read something, you needed this description because you had nothing to refer back to. You know, you can't go to the library and look at pictures of this stuff, these places. Right. And so you had to use your mind to see these places. And the only way to use your mind by seeing these places, the authors had to
use a good description.
Very good description.
That makes perfect sense.
You know, the thing is, if you're like, you know, if you're in the middle of, you know, let's sit there and say, you know, one is, you know, a small town in Argentina, we'll say, let's sit there and say one very small town in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, and you're picking up Moby Dick, and you know nothing about whaling because you're nowhere near the ocean. You know nothing about sea because you're nowhere near the ocean. All you know is about your little town. You might know about cattle ranching, but you're not going to know about this whole other world around you. So you need these descriptive details to be able to learn that. And to learn about the towns and people. Yeah.
It's really good point what you're saying because I'm just interested, right? When I read that name, I went to see in Google Maps to see how it was. And it was describing it like with a lot of sand. They was saying that if you will go, let's say, he was saying today you will see there are a lot of trees and all that, but they were not native from that island. I can't remember the name of the island, before their departure. And then when I went to Google it, you see that the island is all sand. It's like a huge sand everywhere.
It's like a big sandbar.
Yes. So, I don't know. It's then you realize that when you see the picture, you know, that the description was really good because more or less I imagine it like that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought they did an excellent job with it.
Yeah, and I think it's probably the reason why novels today are probably not as descriptive because you don't need to be. Because the thing is, like, you know, our world is so far open. You know, I mean, you know, any of us can sit here and basically think of, okay, what is a small town in Russia like? And we have some point of reference where we have an idea now. Because, you know, the thing is, whether we've seen it in a movie or we've seen a documentary about it or something like that. And though you might not know the ins and outs, but you have more of an idea than you would back then, sort of thing. Because all you knew is basically your town, and that's it. You know, you'd be even lucky if you knew about, you know, the town 2 hours away from you, about how they were living.
Yeah.
So what I think we're going to do is we're going to do a retrospective of our classic novels because it's the last one, and give it, what was your experience with the classic novels? And we'll start with you, Leandro. What did you think of this season of our classic novels?
Well, this, as you know, is my first season, and I really enjoyed it. There were a few classic books that I wanted to read, and we covered them. One was this one. There's some that were like meh, not like great, but the majority of all of them I really enjoyed them.
I'm trying to think of the one that annoyed me the most. I liked the majority of them all because they were basically like rereads from high school. And I think there was one we just took the piss out of it. Which one was it? None of us really enjoyed it. I can't remember the name of it now.
For me, it was Treasure Island. I really didn't like
Treasure Island. Yeah. I didn't hate it.
I was quite shocked because I thought I was actually going to like that one. I was a bit.
Well, Treasure Island, they say it's a boy's book. Every little boy needs to read it. That's what I was told.
And I'm too gay for it because I didn't like it at all.
You're too gay. I never heard anybody say they're too gay for Treasure Island, but okay.
It didn't capture me. I didn't like the film version of it anyway. But I mean, as far as the novel goes, it's like I found it. I mean, I think that's one of the shortest books we had to read as well, and I found it really hard going. It
wasn't that bad. It's just that I like Pirates of the Caribbean better. And once you've been spoiled with the Pirates of the Caribbean, you just can't go back. You just can't.
Yeah. And I also going to say that I was pleasantly surprised, which I liked a lot, was the Count of Monte Cristo. I mean, that was a slog to get through.
Oh God!
Overall, I love the whole. It's like these cliffhanger movies all put together. Like every chapter ended with like this cliffhanger, and it's like
the swashbuckling,
and basically, and then you get, and then he just goes off into the sunset, and God knows where he goes to, and it's kind of a
one good thing about a lot of these books. I had no idea that they were serials. Like it was a story people follow on the weekly paper. I didn't know that before we started doing that. And I thought that was really, there was always something to learn, whether it was about the time, like, if the books really, the times were interesting. And a lot of these books kind of hung out in the same era, the same time frame. So, I mean, it was kind of cool that way. I kind of like that because it gave you a glimpse into a different world completely. And it is. And you don't really appreciate that till you're older. I think, some kids really get it. I didn't, I thought I was being tortured in Catholic school. But I love them now in retrospect because I don't have to read them.
One that I enjoyed the most was Call to the Wild. It was a bit sad, but I really enjoyed the book. The movie, so. But the book was I really like it. What about you?
Too? Which book?
I really enjoyed Call to the Wild.
Call to the Wild. That's definitely one of my favorites.
I love. Yeah,
that's definitely one of my favorites, and it's so sad, and it's just like I just hated how it ended, though. Even in the movie, they couldn't even make me happy and give it a happy ending.
But the movie, I enjoyed, but I think the movie was more, to me, in the end, more based on the actor and the thing. The dog was doing the part, but I think the book is more based even the story is telling from his own eyes.
I just love Jack London's book, and they were really raw too. I mean, I think we explored that they were raw books and that they just explained basically how hard life was back then, especially in Alaska. I mean, during the gold rush time. I mean, he wrote a lot of good books, Jack London did. I love all of his stuff. I thought he did a lot of good books.
And what was the name of that book that was there were two words. One that was underneath. I can't remember the name now.
Oh, wait. I'm trying to come to me.
The movie is it was like a machine, and there were monsters.
Oh no, it's gonna drive me nuts. What is that, Keith?
Oh, isn't that H.G. Wells' The Time Machine?
The Time Machine, yes. The troglodyte.
That one was cool, yeah. That was
I thought, crazy. Okay, I don't know. I thought that, I don't know, the movie was kind of weird.
The movie
did not make any effing sense whatsoever, but I liked the book.
Yeah.
But I felt sorry for the troglodytes. But at least H.G. Wells, that somebody was saying that somebody was like, I don't know what kind of, they belong to some kind of whatever forum on Facebook or whatever, but they think H.G. Wells really did build a time machine and is traveling around, as we speak.
I was going to say that that was one that had a lot of build up for me, and I didn't mind it, but I found myself actually liking like the film that we covered that had nothing to do with it called Time After Time.
I love that movie. I really love that movie. Did we cover that one instead of doing? No, wait, we didn't.
No, we did. That was from a previous season.
Yeah.
So
oh my God, Time After Time is an excellent movie with Malcolm McDowell and oh my God, what's his name?
Mary Steenburgen
but who played Jack the Ripper? He's always in a lot of films, and I forget his name.
He's in The Omen as well. That guy.
Yeah,
I get his head cut off in The Omen. But so I thought, and I thought it was quite interesting because we had special guests on our show for that who are really great big science fiction buffs, and of course they were like into it. And the rest of us are like, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I was quite surprised, movie. Like reading, actually reading it, and you have these ideas of what things are with classic novels, and you actually read them, and you kind of, your impressions become totally different. And I don't know if that's looking at things through our eyes or different kind of eyes, but I always kind of thought of Alice in Wonderland or something, and I didn't know that she was mentally challenged. So, I mean,
was she mentally challenged, or
she came across as mentally challenged to me? I just thought, there's something mentally wrong with this person.
Are you talking about the cartoon or the book?
The book, sort of thing.
Well, they're both weird. That was such a strange novel. I mean, come on, it was weird to begin with. And
I loved The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I thought that was brilliant. I really like that.
I like that because I don't remember reading it years ago, and I forgot that Esmeralda actually dies in it instead of being carried off by the handsome officer that Maureen O'Hara gets, whatever. She has a happy ending, but she doesn't in the book. And that was kind of like, oh man, I didn't know that. I don't remember that.
And I was quite surprised by Little Women about how much of a feminist book it is.
Yeah, for the time, you can't really blame them for writing that at the time because women were property pretty much back in those days. They were in a caste system. They had to marry to get up,
and they weren't even. They couldn't even vote. And you have these, these characters of strong women who, overall, even though they did get married or whatever, but overall they did accomplish their goals.
Yeah, I thought the book was kind of a letdown for Jo, though, in the end of the book, because she kind of becomes a regular housewife anyway.
But she becomes a writer and a teacher
in her own right, yeah. But
she settled, but she still got what she wanted. And to be honest, that Jo ran that marriage. It wasn't the man who was running that marriage; she was.
Well, one can only hope. I did think, though, that Katharine Hepburn was all over the top for the part in the movie.
Yeah.
She was exhausting.
Yeah, it became the Katharine Hepburn show, sort of thing.
It did.
Sort of thing. But, I think overall, I think we did. I was quite happy with our classic novels thing.
I was. I thought we did a good job. I had fun, and I learned a lot of new stuff that I didn't know.
I spent a lot more time reading than I had to. I have to sit there and say that this is a little
more challenging of a program we picked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it because, as I said, there were a lot of these books that were like in my kind of list of books that I wanted to read. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank you, Keith, because you invited me to the group. And before starting reading, I was not in a really good place of mind. And this was really cool because help me to, get out of my, let's say, day-by-day problems and go to they say that, books are like doors to another reality, let's say. It's a way to travel. And, I wanted to say things.
Well, we enjoy having you around, so you're going to keep coming around. So you're not leaving us yet.
No. The next season for me is like, I don't have any clue of any of the books, so this was really
you're gonna like them though. They're far more nitty gritty and nasty and scary.
Yeah, well, I know someone here that he reads a lot of books, so I was reading the names, and he was, oh yeah, you will enjoy that. That one is really like dark or something like that. But I really enjoy it because when you don't have an idea at all about the book, is the approach to the book change completely. When you know more or less the story is like, well, you know what's going to happen, and then I think you become more. You start to judge maybe the book, and you say, oh yeah, it was not so great, or yes. But when you don't have a clue about what it is, it's like, it's fresh. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's always cool, especially when you get a different take from somebody else. It's always, I mean, like when we're doing other stuff, I always tell Joe Randazzo all the time, I learn something new every time we're doing a show with him, because he knows so much about cinema, him and Keith together.
Yes, yeah.
They know so much about movies and stuff. It's like, wow, I didn't know that. I always learn something new, which is really cool. That's why I like doing this, because you do learn something new, or you meet new people doing it. It's a lot of fun. I think that's it. When you are in a dark place, it always puts you in a good mood to come on here. Well, Keith hasn't insulted me yet this time, but that's probably coming. But I mean, it does put you in a good place when your mind goes somewhere else and you talk about cool stuff with other people. So
yeah,
it's always a plus. It's always a plus for me.
It is.
Well, that brings us to the end of Moby Dick and our classic novels season for season 4. Next month, we start season 5, where we do Kings of Horror. We'll be dealing with the top horror writers of the last 40 years. And this will also include Stephen King, Clive Barker, Peter Straub, and we'll also be doing some Japanese work by the author of Battle Royale and Ringu. And Leandro will be joining us as a regular co-host. And Vicky will be here starting our new seasons of Kings of Horror. So we would like to thank everyone for listening to our classic novels episodes of season 4. And next week we'll be covering Bewitched. The week after that, to finish off our Nature versus Man, we'll be doing Godzilla from 1956 and Godzilla from 2017. And we'll, of course, be going through our Dark Shadows. So it's good night for myself. Good night, Vicky.
I just can't believe a year's gone by again. Yeah, good night, everybody. I'm just can't believe a whole year has flipping gone by again.
Yeah. Good night, everyone.
And good night, Leandro, and good night for myself. And we'll see you next week for Bewitched, and next month for Kings of Horror, starting with The Dead Zone by Stephen King and The Dead Zone, the David Cronenberg film. Good night.
Pirate crew, we be 27 days out on Mogadishu. Now there's something going wrong, we got red skies at dawn. Can't find the captain and the lifeboat's gone.
We're going down with the ship. We're going down, 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 down with the ship. It's all for one and one for all, yeah. We're going down with the ship. We're going down with the ship. We're going down, 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 down with the ship. It's all for one and one for all, yeah. We're going down with the ship.
an angry bitch. We be leaking like the seas, then we run out of pitch. Now we praying to the Lord, how we stay afloat with a 3-meter hole in the bottom of the boat.
We're going down.